everything over on that side was half off. So I came away with some really great deals. Hey there, welcome back. If we haven't met yet, my name is Tiffany. I'm a Washington realtor who has a love for creating beautiful spaces on a budget. And today I'm going to be showing you my most recent trip to the Goodwill outlet or the Goodwill bins where you pay for items by the pound. Now, each of these outlet stores are set up a little bit different. Ours has a separate section where they have large items and furniture, and those items are priced individually. But this day, everything over on that side was half off. So I came away with some really great deals. As always, I came away with a lot of project pieces, so I'll show you what I did with those. I'll show you how I might style some of the items, and as always, in the end, I'll share exactly how much I spent. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you enjoy. And here we are at the Goodwill outlet. Now, before we head over to the bins, I stopped over in the furniture section where, as I had said, everything was half off this day. Apparently, they're going to be rearranging this side, so they were clearing out. And now we're over on the side where you pay for items by the pound. If you've never been to a Goodwill outlet, the way this works is they bring out big bins of categorized items. They rotate those out throughout the day, so there's always new items coming out. Typically, those categories are priced differently. Just to give you a ballpark idea of pricing, at the time of filming this, our store is currently charging $1.29 per pound for wares. And before you check out, I always recommend that you take a minute and really look your items over and make sure they're not damaged. The first thing I picked up was this infinity scarf, and I thought it was really cute. I really liked that pattern on it, but I wanted to repurpose this. So first I found that seam, and next time I find a seam ripper, I will be picking that up, but I do not own one, so I am just using scissors and separating this. Next, I picked up this little stool. I'm not sure if this was a milking stool or a kid's stool, but I wanted to use this as a plant stand. So I'm brushing on some Citristrip to help remove that paint. I then took a garbage bag and covered the stool to help keep that Citristrip from drying on the piece. Once I had the bulk of that paint off, I took it inside and washed it off with soap and water. Once it had fully dried, I brought it out to give it a light sanding. I really liked this basket here, but it is obviously a little misshapen, so I'm going to be showing you how you can fix that. The first step is to submerge the basket in water. You'll want to keep the basket submerged until you feel it softening up. After about 4 or 5 minutes, this basket was nice and soft and pliable. Typically, I would put it over a bowl or a bucket to dry, but because this one folded into itself, it held its shape quite well. So I just set it out in the sun and let it fully dry. Here's a look back at those items before, and here's the after. Next, I grabbed this placemat. It's really rare to find sets of placemats at the Goodwill outlet, but things like this can be used on a wall with a grouping of baskets. This could be propped up to add just a little pop of texture or height to a grouping of items, or this could be used under a centerpiece on a table. When I picked this scarf up, my first thought was to turn this into a table runner. Ideally, it would have been a little bit longer, but that's okay. We're just going with it. And here I'm layering it with another runner that I had on hand. One thing I find so fascinating about thrifting is trying to figure out the story behind these pieces. And I don't think this washboard is a remake. I think this is authentically old. And one thing that makes me think that is this faded stamp on the back and these rusted nails. So I think this is a genuine antique piece. Next, I grabbed this vase, and although it is very cute as is, it's just not my style, so I'm gonna give it a little makeover. And here I'm adding some greenery that I picked up this day. This basket had some spots on it, so here I decided to treat it with a product that's intended for mold and mildew. Once treated, I set it out in the sun to dry. I then took some of this chalk paint and watered it down and painted it onto the basket. The first thing I did with this caddy was get it really good and clean, and I did that by putting it in my dishwasher. I often get asked how I clean items, and a lot I put either in my dishwasher or in my washing machine. I thought this cutting board was really pretty, but it had definitely seen better days, so I wanted to restore it. First, I gave it a really good sanding. Next, I applied this cutting board oil. It's a fairly common misconception that you can just use whatever oil on cutting boards, but you want to be careful because a lot of them can go rancid. So I suggest using oil that is specifically intended for cutting boards. I'll have this linked down in the description box below. Once that had plenty of time to soak into that wood, my final step here is applying this cutting board wax. Next, I brought home this chalkboard and I thought it was really cute, but it did have what they call ghosting on it, where that chalk just does not want to come off. So the first thing I tried was some water. Unfortunately, that didn't seem to quite cut it. So next I decided to try rubbing alcohol. That definitely worked better. If you guys have any tried and true tips and tricks for getting chalkboards really good and clean, I would love to hear from you. I really liked this basket, but I didn't love the handle on it, so I decided to remove it. Remember that anytime you find a basket, if it has a damaged handle or you just don't like the look of those on there, you can remove them. I loved the style of this coiled basket. Here I am taking that twine and I'm rewrapping it. After that, the basket was better, but it was still a little slouchy. So here I'm taking a pillow and stuffing it down in there. Here I just wanted to share this little hack with you. If you have a planter or other decorative container that you're trying to fill, you can use grocery bags. I've seen this done with plastic bags. I don't happen to have any of those on hand, so here I'm just using a paper bag. I'm crumpling it up and stuffing it down in there. You can then cover it with your filler, decorative rocks, Spanish moss, or here for demonstration purposes, I'm using the moss that I picked up at the outlet today. Next, I picked up this wall hanging planter, and that top piece was on a swiveling hinge. So here I'm using a clamp as a tool to help get it out of that hinge and remove that top piece. This vintage credenza was very nice, but it just was a little dated, so I decided to see if we could breathe some new life into this. It's hard to tell from this, but that wood there had some pretty strong red and orange undertones, and that was really not what I was going for. So I decided to try something new. First, we completely primed the whole piece, and then here my husband is painting the color iron ore on the base. We then taped off that bottom section, and I'm going to try to recreate a restoration hardware look on this top. I'm starting with this rugged tan paint and painting this over that primed top. Once that had fully dried, I'm going over it with this Java Brown decorative glaze. So I'm just spreading this evenly over that top piece. And I'm using very little of this. I only dipped my brush 3 times over the entire top. And here I'm using a dry deck staining brush, and I'm gently going over that wet glaze to try to make it look like wood grain. And as I'm using this dry brush, I am taking it all the way from one side to the other without lifting the brush. Next, I took this little sample of this natural twine paint, and I'm just dabbing a tiny bit onto the end of a chip brush and dabbing it onto a paper towel, and I'm just dry brushing it on here. So I don't know if I had too much paint on my brush here or what happened, but I felt like it ended up a little bit blotchy. So I ended up going back over this again with that decorative glaze to try to even it out. In the end, I was pretty happy with it, but I feel like I need to really perfect this technique. If you guys want a great tutorial from someone who has a lot of experience doing it, go check out Black Sheep House here on YouTube, and she has has some great tutorials. And last, I topped it with this clear matte polycrylic. And for the hardware, I used this brass polish. Here's a look back at the before, and here's the after. I'm not sure how I feel about that brass. I'm not sure if it's just too bold. Do you guys think I should do a process on it and darken that brass, or do you like this polished brass look? Next, I picked up this cedar chest, and I really liked the bones of it, the structure, but it needed a little love. This is a product I've been interested in trying for a while. I know that some people use normal bleach on wood, but in my research, I found that oftentimes cedar does not respond to it. So I thought this would be the perfect piece to give this a try on. The way this product works is you brush on part A and you let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes to soak into the wood. You then put part B on and let that dry. Once that has dried, if you want the wood to be lighter, you can then repeat the process. The wood looked like it was still fairly dark to me, so I ended up repeating the process 3 times. I then let it sit and dry overnight, and it definitely did the job. I decided to use this white wax as my top coat. If you've been following along with me for a while, you know that I'm a big fan of this white wax. I especially like it for pieces that have orange or red undertones if you want to seal it and protect it without bringing those tones back out. This is a great product for that. And I'll have this linked in the description box along with any other products shown in this video. I also picked up some miscellaneous items that I'm sure I'll find a use for at some point. And that's everything I picked up this day. Now, before we get to my grand total, if you enjoyed this video, would you please do me a big favor and hit that thumbs up button? And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future videos. Now, let's get down to those numbers. Over in the furniture section, I spent $22.48 before tax on that credenza and cedar chest. And over on the other side where the bins are for the rest of the items, I paid $74.62. This brings my pre-tax total this day to $97.10. If you would like to see more videos like this, I'll have a playlist down in the description box for you. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope that you feel encouraged that you too can create beautiful spaces on a budget. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.